Hello. Hello, guys. Hello, and good morning to you. How's everybody doing this Thursday? Give me a shout out in the comments below if you want to. Let me know how you've been doing. And real quick, I just want to, and I hope we're broadcasting on all of our areas. Been doing some new stuff with the broadcasting. So, anywho, apology for Monday. If you showed up Monday, we were supposed to do a broadcast for the Worry Diet weigh-in, for those of you who took the Worry Diet Challenge. And I missed it. I missed it. Honestly, I just completely spaced it. Obviously, I care and I try not to do those kinds of things, but it happened. So I apologize to you guys that were there for that, and we'll touch base and we'll get together for the Worry Diet weigh-in. But as for now, are you limiting your treatment options, your ADHD treatment options? Lots of frustrated people out there, right? Looking for their ideal treatment strategy. However, looking for this strategy without understanding this common pitfall or this reason for feeling like your options are limited, okay? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And believe it or not, okay, this common pitfall falls into the category of what we would call self-limiting beliefs. Self-limiting beliefs, okay? And it's a tough one to talk about because we don't always like to talk about our beliefs and how we think and those kinds of things, and more or less our beliefs and how we think and how it could potentially be creating an issue. Like, we just don't like to talk about that, okay? But it's definitely worth the conversation, because once you go through this learning curve and go through this breakthrough, you're going to be way more happier. I don't think that's really grammatically correct, but you're going to be happier with your treatment strategy and where you're going with that. So what we're going to do, we're going to, real quick, what's a belief? Number two, how do they limit? How do they set limitations? And how do I know? How do I know if this is what I'm doing or not? Okay, so real quick, a belief, a belief basically, is something that we learn. We don't realize that we learn it, but it's things that we believe to be true. We give meaning to certain things, okay? So some of us here in America, we believe that we should use our manners. If you burp at the table, you should say, "Excuse me," those kinds of things. No big deal. Other countries, however, have different belief setting when it comes to that. In some cultures, it is appropriate and a compliment to the chef if you burp during dinner, and it is encouraged. Same thing, burping at the table. Two different meanings, two different beliefs, two different scenarios, okay? So essentially, that's what the belief is. So we can take a look at all of the things around us and what we think about them and how we feel, what those truths are to us, okay? All of those things, right? And how do they limit? How does your self-limiting beliefs, or how do these beliefs limit our options? Well, simply because if we believe certain things to be true and we're not willing to accept that there might be other options, even if we might not understand that, if we're not willing to open our minds and think, well, I don't know what's out there, but maybe there's something, and be okay with the fact that it might not fit into our paradigm, if it might not fit into what we see right now, okay, they can limit our options because we just can't see what we can't see. We can't see what we can't see, right? And not only do they limit in that perspective, okay, but they also limit our options because we get into a trap sometimes of what we think to be true. And we do that without doing our own due diligence and really evaluating how that's going to play a role in our own lives. Because what works for one person works for them because they're applying it to their lives in the way that they need to. The problem sometimes is if we jump on that bandwagon, I'm going to say bandwagon, that might not be the right word, but if we jump on that bandwagon and we assume that what they're doing is what we need to be doing or not need to be doing, and we base that off of their circumstances, it's going to be different for us. See what I'm saying? Because it's not so much the knowledge. It's not knowing, oh, that's blue, that's black, that's white. But it's knowing the information and then knowing how to apply it, knowing how to customize it, tweak it, and apply it so that it fits our own needs. Okay? And another reason why our beliefs can sometimes limit our options is simply because sometimes we outgrow it, and we don't see past that. We don't realize that it's preventing us from moving forward. So sometimes we believe something a certain way, and we believe that, and it's working. It's working for us at that time. It's working for us. And then later on in life, when we've experienced growth and when life has changed and things have moved in different directions, we forget to reevaluate that. And we hold on to these beliefs, and we don't even realize that they are preventing us from moving forward. Those beliefs don't work for us anymore, okay? And there's lots of beliefs out there, lots of them. One example is I was raised in a culture and in a home and in an environment where we punched a clock, okay? It was very traditional, punch a clock, and work at a factory. Work at a factory, punch a clock. I watched my parents do that, my grandparents, everybody in my family did that, right? And I accepted that up until I went to college and was looking for my own career path. And you know what? That just didn't work for me. So I had to evaluate that and go from there. So it can be things that big, or it could be things like as simple as the story about this Thanksgiving dinner. Okay, someone was having this Thanksgiving dinner, and all of a sudden, the lady, the couple that was there, they looked at each other, and he's like, "Oh man, you ever wonder why Grandma always cuts the ends off her ham?" I don't know. Let's go ask her. So the couple, they go to Grandma and they're like, "Hey, why do you always cut the ends off your ham?" And she's like, "I don't know. That's just what I learned. Why don't you go ask my mom? Because that's where I learned it from." So then they go to great grandma and they're like, "Hey, why do you cut the ends off your ham?" And she's like, "Well, that's just the recipe that I followed. I'm not sure if it has to do with the flavor of the ham or any of that, but it's what I learned from your aunt. So go ask her." Go to the aunt. "Hey, why do we always cut the ends off of our ham?" And she says, "Well, I just never had a big enough pan for the ham. If I didn't cut the ends off, it wouldn't fit." And it was that simple. And here everybody was flipping out over the ends of the ham and being puzzled why it was a big deal. Did it do anything for the flavor? All of that stuff, right? And really it was because of the size of the pan. Okay? So how often do we do that? How often do we do that in our own lives? And here's how you can tell. Here's how you can tell. I'll wrap this up. Point number 3, how do we know if we are limiting ourselves by our beliefs? Listen to your internal dialogue, okay? So, do you catch yourself doing things like, I don't do this. I won't do that. I can't do this. Well, I think this. Well, I think that. You know what I mean? And it's all of these can'ts and don'ts and we don't do this, not that. If you hear yourself doing that, stop for just a moment and reflect on that, and then ask yourself, why? Why can't I? Why don't I? Why shouldn't I? X, Y, Z. Okay. And when you evaluate that, that's going to give you a good indication on whether you are making this belief that doesn't make sense or whether you are okay with that. Okay. So if we take a look at that and we're like, oh, I can't do that. I don't do this, won't do that, shouldn't do that, blah, 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 blah. And we look at that and we look at the reasoning behind that. We might discover that we're spot on. Awesome. Or we might discover, oh, well, that's dumb. Like, why would I base my decision off of that? That's silly, right? So a lot of times then just so we can tie this up and put it together with the ADHD treatment scenario here and how this affects that, lots of times, there's this whole medication, prescription, non-prescription, natural, non-natural, behavior, not behavior, therapy, just all of that stuff. It doesn't take much to get into a group and read all of these things where we're like, we don't this, I don't that, I don't believe this, and shouldn't, and blah, 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 blah. It's everywhere, right? So we take a look at ourselves. And we see if we fit into that bill when it comes to those things. And then we ask ourselves, why? Where did it come from? What is the history behind our ham? Is there a particular reason why you are steering away from prescriptions? Is it a good reason why? Did you do your research on that to back up your reasoning? So forth and so on. So it's a matter of evaluating ourselves and where those came from and where we learned it from. What kind of information do we have? Can we take this information? Can we adapt it, modify it, or whatever so that it fits our life better? Okay, those kinds of things. So, number 1, remember, self-limiting beliefs can limit lots of things in our lives. And today we've talked about our treatment options. And we talked about how these beliefs limit that. And also what we can do to make sure that we aren't doing that. And that is simply just listen to our internal dialogue. Listen and look for the I can't, I won't, I shouldn't, I blah, 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 blah. And look to where you are putting those limitations. And then evaluate those. Evaluate those limitations. Why? Where did that come from? Why do you feel that way? What did you learn? What did you research? So forth and so on. And then ask yourself if that is valid enough or not to want to hold on to that belief or possibly change that. So that was a little longer than maybe I anticipated, but I did keep it shorter than It could have been. So thank you guys. Thank you guys for joining. For those of you who made comments, thank you. I always go back through and do those last. That way I can stay on track here. But if you found this helpful, let us know. And also, if you found it helpful, you can check out our free training. If you haven't done that yet, we have a free training. You can snatch up the free training and see what you think. So I'm off of here. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next week on Tuesday. I promise. I won't bail this time, I promise. I'll see you on Tuesday. Thanks, guys.